Hello, dear friends. In this video, I would like to talk a little more about who Jesus was and why this question is more relevant than ever for us. The man Jesus appeared on the scene 2,000 years ago when mankind was very much steeped in the Adamic mentality of religion. And this was not a mistake. It was something that Jesus himself knew. But immediately, everything that he did and everything that he represented was swept up into a religious framework. We can now see that the religious mentality of mankind has been a definite expression of lower consciousness, of lower human impulses. It has been superstitious, ceremonial, hurtful, exclusive. Just the list of adjectives goes on and on. Now we are coming into better light and we are realizing that Jesus was not a religious icon. He was much more than that. Even though religion is on its way out and human consciousness is coming to the point where we can reject it as being a lower form of consciousness, we see the man Jesus still before us. And the reason for this is that Jesus represents an evolutionary form of humanity that is just up ahead of us. I know that many people look at our world right now and say, how does this look like evolved consciousness? But what we have to understand is that even though there are many human beings on the planet right now that are obviously not in an evolved state of consciousness, human beings have been evolving. Many people over the past 2,000 years have lived their lives with an awareness of human consciousness and with an exploratory impulse to go deeper. And Jesus was a man who had been incarnated many times before and had done this great work of consciousness evolution. And then he made the choice to be incarnated one more time among us 2,000 years ago. When he did that, he had a very set purpose in mind, and that was to help us, to show us where we're going as a species, as a race, and what we are capable of. Mostly his efforts were lost on us at that time. They didn't register with the common man, and they definitely didn't register with those in power. But Jesus appeared in our world once again as the fully evolved Christ man. And what this means is that in this age, human beings are best described as the Adam man, because we take after the biblical figure of Adam in our consciousness. We are very much obsessed with the knowledge of good and evil and of dualities, and we are very much bound by a sense of separation from God. That is an Adamic state of consciousness. But up ahead of us, there is another state, and that state was embodied in Jesus. He was already moving in it. And that is aptly called the Christ state. Jesus was called the Christ, but the mistake of the religious community, which in its superstitious mentality, was to make Christ his last name and to make his state of consciousness one that was exclusively divine and that left all of the rest of us out in the cold. That was a big mistake. So this is who Jesus was. He was a man who had evolved in consciousness, and he had chosen to appear in his full evolutionary thrust. And he did this for our benefit. He did this to show us and encourage us and to teach us and to leave a testimony about the evolution of consciousness. So Jesus was not what the religion says that he was, but he was very much a champion of humanity. It's interesting that his life was very short. His ministry was less than 3 years long. And not only has this been incredible that he lived such a short life and made such an impact, but the fact is that Jesus could not have lived any longer back then because his state of consciousness was so at odds with the present consciousness at that time of mankind. He just was like a sore thumb that people reacted to so strongly that it's no wonder that he was removed. But he accomplished all that he set out to do in that short time. He accomplished teaching a band of disciples and raising them up in their own state of consciousness to where they could go forth and testify. He accomplished dying on the cross as a sacrifice of atonement, which was a great boost of consciousness evolution for all that have been able to lay hold of it and believe in it. And that's why in the past 2,000 years, so many people have really made great headway and progress in the evolution of consciousness toward the Christ themselves. And it was an incredible, wonderful event for us because the only thing really going on in our world is the evolution of consciousness. The only thing of value, the only thing that's lasting. And that's what he was all about. Probably there have been very few that have reached the same level of evolutionary realization that Jesus was moving in, but that's really not the important aspect of Christ consciousness. What is important is that we move closer and closer to that goal, and many people have done this. As more and more people have raised their state of consciousness to draw closer to that fulfillment that Jesus displayed, it has brought us very close to what can only be described as a new glorious age of mankind. Up until now, the collective has been dominated by the lower impulses of Adamic consciousness. But a time is now coming, and it's very close, when this vibration of the Christ is going to become so strong that it's going to usher in the new age. And so, in truth, who Jesus was the architect of the new age of mankind. And he referred to himself this way. He knew who he was. He did not call himself the Christ, the only Son of God. He didn't call himself God. He said he was the firstborn of many brothers. And what that means is that he was the first one to really break through to the place that we're all going. Whenever he referred to himself, he called himself the Son of Man. This is a very interesting title because it was as if he were holding up an image of what mankind could become and the new man to come. In the new age, not only are individuals going to be moving in the consciousness of the Christ, but the entire collective of mankind will be. And the entire collective of mankind will become the Son of Man, a new species of man, a fully evolved species. And this has always been our destiny, my friends. We were always meant for something so much more than what we're moving in right now. We were always meant for the Christ. So Jesus was here to show his brothers, mankind, the way to become like him. This was the most important thing that has ever taken place on the human stage. That's why the testimony of Jesus has been preserved. And that's why it's going to carry us right on into the new age.